Welcome to the Monday message. So happy to have you all here with us today. We're going to first do the numbers, but after that, we're going to talk about how to sell 3 to 5 policies per day. This is going to build on what we discussed at boot camp about a week and a half or so ago. So I wasn't able to get to all the material, so we're going to get to the second half of the material on today's Monday message. But let's first do the numbers. So we're going to do 2 weeks of numbers this week. And here we have our weekly submitted for one of those weeks. David, 1053. Ryan and Camille, 1108. David O, 1154. Eric C, 1242. Gina, 1320. Nicholas, 1351. Michelle, 1481. Matthew, 1501. Ryan, 1507. Amanda S, 1621. Kira, 2091. Robert Averett, good job, Robert, 2213. Melissa, 2409. Nisha, 3060. Zadok, 3404. Eric, 3427. Aaron, good job, Aaron Wilson, 3588. Seth and Adina, 3657. Mallory, 3782. Stephen, 3810. Jason B, 4058. Capina, 4150. Jessica, 4863. Charisma, 4949. Rogers and Kim, 5018. Cleo, 5382. Jeanette, 5629. Esther, 6000. Jude, 6216. Haley, 6777. Mimi, 7827. Marissa, 8260. Mike, 9264. Janet, 11,270. Mark, 11,396. And Andre, $11,832. Wow, that's impressive, guys. Great numbers. Great numbers for that week. Then we have our top 5 weekly submitted. Mercedes, 12,998. David, 11,884. Stephen Davies, the man himself, with 13,197. Sabrina, 16,517 with 17 applications. And Jeremico, 18,226 with 17 apps. Good going, guys. Incredible numbers. What a great week that was. And then we have the next week's top 5 weekly paychecks. That was Andre at 33.97, LaShare, 55.66. I think that may include LaShare's very first annuity. Good job, LaShare, if that's the case. Great job. Nicholas, 55.82. Mike, 65.31. And Sabrina Floyd with 68.09. Our top 5 year-to-date producers. David with 152 apps, 228,912 AP. Aaron, 220 apps with $234,848. Nick, 56 apps, 285,170. Jeremico, 287,361 with 289 applications. Good job, Jeremico. And then myself, 110 applications for $310,306. Look at our Freedom Leaderboard. We're seeing some new names on here. Robert Averett under completed fast track and under, under completed fast track. So let's look at the numbers. We have a few new people on here. Brandy with 1, myself with 1, Robert Averett with 4, and the Davies Base Shop with 8. And then under contract, we have William with 1, Harry with 1, Cisco with 1, Adina Messina with 1, Amber with 1, Tanya with 1, Kylie with 1, Rogers and Kim Strouder with 1, and the Davies Base Shop with 4 contracted. Year to date, Alliance Recruiting, we see that Stephen has pulled ahead of Alex Abian with a big lead. That's impressive. Jared has got 106. That's Jared Doucette out of Florida. Micah Noel Evantovich out of Kentucky, 110. Then the main office, NAA's main office, 128. Alex Abian with 176. And Stephen Davies with 198. That is impressive. Great job, Stephen Davies in the base shop there. Stephen's travel schedule is coming up. We have some events coming up here that I think you want to make sure you are present for. Number one, for December, he'll be in Salt Lake City, December 16th, Dallas on the 17th, and then down here in Hotlanta on December 18th. We look forward to having him here with us. We always have a great time when we attend these events. January, he's got some events booked as well. We've got January 6th in Salt Lake City, Utah again, January 7th, Dallas again, and then January 8th, he'll be coming down here to Atlanta again. Now, guys, we should always attend these events, especially when they're in driving distance from us. There is one event we never, ever, ever, ever miss, and that is NatCon. Our national convention is coming up January 23 through 26. There are a few tickets available, not many. I encourage you, do whatever you can to make NatCon. I never go to these events thinking to myself, what a waste of time that was. No, I come home thinking, okay, now I have a better picture, clear in mind of what it is I need to do. I learned something new I didn't know before, and I can invariably use it the next week when I get back to improve my business. And so make every effort, please, trust me, make every effort to be in attendance. We're going to talk today about how to sell 3 to 5 final expense policies every day. Like I said before, I wanted to talk more about this at boot camp, but there was just so much to cover that day, and we covered a lot, didn't we? I mean, I think everyone came away from that thinking there were new things that they learned that they could apply that were able to help them grow their business and be more effective, more successful. But I just couldn't cover this topic in greater detail on that Saturday. So let's touch on it today. For the little bit of time we have left, let's see how we can learn to write 3 to 5 policies every single day as a life insurance agent. As many of you know, when I first got my start, I was right towards the tail end of the pandemic, and I was doing the circumstances really required me to do most of what I was doing over the telephone. And in home, face to face, knee to knee can be a little bit easier. It's a little bit harder for people to reject you or say no when you're sitting across from them and they can see how genuine you are and they can see the value of what it is you're offering. It can be a little more difficult, though, to do that over the telephone because so much of our communication is body language. And when we're on the telephone, we're just not able to communicate that body language. So that means we have to work harder to use our voice, our expressions, our tone of voice, our pace, those things in order to help people understand what it is we're trying to get across and to move them to make a decision. So telephone sales can be really hard. I first got into the business, started doing telephone sales. I was doing about 10,000 every single month on the low end. I had months where I was doing 20 pretty consistently. But people ask me, in fact, I even got some phone calls over the past week asking me these questions to kind of build on boot camp. What did your schedule look like? How did you do it? What was your routine throughout the day? What methods did you use? Did you have any tips? And so I'm going to share with you some about 3 points here. Okay, number one, the sales system that I implemented. That's number one. The personality traits I had to develop as a producer in myself in order to be effective. And then I'm also going to share with you what my schedule looked like, okay, from day to day, from the moment I woke up at 6 to 6 o'clock, or even sometimes as late as 9 o'clock at night, depending on what my week was looking like. So I'm going to share those things with you. And if you do these things, I promise you, these are not fantastical ideas that no one can do. You can do these things too, and you can be a top 10 producer with the Alliance just like me. It is possible. If I can do it, you can do it. Okay, it is possible. So number one, what did my schedule look like? I think it's important for us to have a clear idea of what it means to actually work. Okay, maybe you've heard me talk about this before. It's a subject near and dear to my heart because I have found it to be true in my case. When I was a young man growing up, my dad was a bricklayer. He worked in the steel mills and the refractory, laying bricks, refractory bricks. He was doing concrete forming and finishing, pouring, finishing, all those things to support the family. And he was very, very skilled. He's retired now. My dad was very, very skilled with these things, highly sought after. He poured himself into a skill, and he was really, really good at it. And so you can understand he'd come home at night just dog tired. And this guy was filthy, dirty, sweaty, freezing, whatever the weather was. And he looked like he could just barely walk in the door. And then he'd get up the next day and do it again. So when I graduated from high school and I started working with him full time, I now had a deeper appreciation now doing it with him full time, what that was like. We'd wake up at 4:35 in order to get to the job site by 7:30. We'd often work well into into the night sometimes to get the job done. We couldn't come back the next day just for a little bit of work. We had to get the job done that day. It didn't matter what the weather was like. We were working. Then I would come home at night and I could barely walk through the door. I was so tired, physically, mentally, emotionally. I was like, I don't think I can do this again tomorrow. See, that is work, right? Let's be honest. That is work. And how many people have truly worked like that? We have to kind of think about our experiences in relation to other people's experiences, and it helps us to appreciate what it means to actually work. That work ethic has given me a lot of perspective. What we do as life insurance agents, let's not minimize it. We work. We work hard. We pour ourselves into helping our clients and being persistent and improving in our understanding of products and our skills. We work hard. But at the same time, we work hard, sitting in a very comfortable office with comfortable clothes on, with a cup of coffee in our hand. When I'm working from home, I have my little dog Heidi in my lap with me. See, we're working, but our situation is different, right? We need some perspective sometimes to really appreciate what it means to work. And that helps us then to see what it is we need to do in order to be an effective agent, an effective broker, helping families protect themselves and others. So this is what my schedule looks like. And it's work, but it's, not the same, right? I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, typically. I do my reading for the day. I get some exercise. I eat breakfast. By 7 a.m., when I was, doing telephone sales solely, I'd get my leads ready and I'd get myself ready, dialed in for the day. By 8 a.m., I'm on the phone. And see, this is where I think a lot of agents make mistakes. They just don't work hard enough. They're not quite understanding what it means, what that schedule really needs to be in order to be effective. They allow themselves to get distracted by TV, laundry, cleaning the house, running errands. These are things that I think typically most people wouldn't care much of anything about until now they're working from home, working for themselves, and now all of a sudden it's very easy to be distracted by these things. I knew that I could beat most agents by just outworking them. I may not have had the skills, the knowledge, but I knew I could at least outwork them. And so that required starting at 8 a.m. And then between 8 and 12, I'm sitting in my chair. I'm not texting. I'm not calling people. I'm not walking away from my desk. I am locked in. I'm focused. Where is my next sale? I'm on the hunt. Every single day before noon, my goal was to make 1 to 2 sales. And if I did that, I could have a 3 to 5 policy day. At 12 p.m., I'd take a break. What did that look like? Well, typically I would eat at my desk or I grab a quick snack and then I'm back on the phones, literally from 12 to 6. I was doing a 300 to 400 outbound dials minimum per day. What are you willing to do? Are you willing to outdial? Are you willing to outwork? Are you willing to exercise some self-control and teach yourself to sit still so you can make your dials every day and bring home the bacon? Are you willing to do that? Well, you can sell 3 to 5 policies doing it that way. And when I didn't hit my goals, I'm staying late. Sometimes it wasn't like this all the time, but there were some times I would call up to 9 p.m. I'd stop at 9, but I would call up to 9 p.m. I was doing whatever it would take to hit my daily goal that I had for myself, 3 to 5 policies per day. And when I didn't hit my goal, I stayed late. Sometimes I'd have to buy different leads. I would try to get 30, 40, 50 leads every single day. And so I would buy the $2 Alliance G leads. I would Google life insurance leads for final expense. I learned how to create leads on Facebook. I was doing all kinds of things to try to keep myself fed 30, 40, 50 leads per day. And then I would take those leads and I would download them into a spreadsheet, and then I would upload them into my CRM. And I would use something like Go High Level or Ringy. Both of those are really good CRMs. And that helped me because before when I got started, I was just using my cell phone. But by having the CRM, I would now have a separate phone number. And we'll talk more about why that would be helpful to you as we go along. Here's a little tip when you're working like this: create a hit list. Every person that you spoke with but you didn't close. See, I would write their name and number on a notepad. Maybe they send me a quote, which I hated that word quote. Often it's just nice customer speak for I'm not interested. Sometimes people are genuine, but not typically. But maybe they were right there on the edge, right? People who didn't pull the trigger, or people who told me that they wanted me to call back next week. And so my follow-up game had to be really strong. If I didn't have my one or two policies by noon that day, I would go to my hit list. And that hit list would save me every single time. It would make sure that I had the policies I was looking for, the goal that I had set for myself, that quota, if you will. The second thing that really helped me focus in my process was speed to lead. Maybe you've heard that expression before, but sometimes I would get, lead like the Alliance has leads where you'll get a text message from somebody who has submitted their information and they hit submit and it goes right to you. If I was talking with a lead on the telephone and the client didn't seem interested, I would hang up and I would call the new lead instead. I didn't care if I was eating or if I was on a break. I would literally at times just like hover over my phone waiting for a notification. I could have been maybe a little unbalanced in that way, but I really kind of saw it as a temporary situation, right? I was planning for my future, for my family's future. I was building a business. Now, the third thing that I want to focus our conversation on too is dialing process. I dialed each lead 3 times in a row. Okay, so I dialed the lead, I let it ring 3 times, hang up, redial. Let it ring 3 times, hang up, redial. Let it ring 3 times, hang up. On the third dial, if I had some leads that I have never been able to find anyone to answer, I would leave a brief voicemail. And then I would call them on my CRM dialer, because sometimes calling them from 2 different numbers would make people think, well, why am I getting calls from 2 different numbers? And sometimes my clients would tell me, I wondered who is this guy that keeps calling me? I'm going to block that number. And so it was good for me to have that alternate number. Or I would text them. I would call again in the afternoon. I'd follow up in the evening. See, sometimes what happens, guys, is we feel like we're bothering people, and that inhibits our workflow, our lead flow. And we kind of need a little bit of a reality check that way. These are folks who have submitted their information and have asked for somebody to contact them. It's important to have that viewpoint. Respect your leads. Keep calling them. Those folks need your help. They've asked for your help. Keep calling them. That would allow me to get on the phone with more people. And I never had to buy live transfer leads. I never had to buy $60 leads per lead. I was able to buy the really cheap ones, and just that volume of activity would lead to sales. Now, I'll be honest with you. At first, it was hard. I struggled. I even convinced myself that sometimes I was suffering, but I'd have to remind myself of what the alternative was. I think Mark talked about this very nicely. He used to be an electrician. His body he had back problems and muscle problems and all this pain, working, from dusk till dawn or from dawn till dusk as an electrician. That would be the alternative for me too. And so sometimes I needed a little reality check. I wanted to be a persistent professional. Stephen early on encouraged me to read this book, and I asked everyone on my team to read this book, and it's called Go for No. You can find it on Amazon. It's like $10. The best $10 you'll ever spend. And I would read that book when I was feeling frustrated. I would meditate on what the potential was for this business. My goal was to not only sell 3 to 5 policies a day, but to get through that first year, because I knew that after that first year, things would begin to change for me and it would get easier. And it was true. Maybe it was just in my mind, but getting through that first year was critical. Now I had a business built up that I had a great foundation and I can build that building higher and higher. If you can implement those steps, I promise you, you'll have a much higher likelihood of succeeding. Now let's talk for a few minutes about priorities. What are your personal priorities? Are you willing to say no? Are you willing to say no? Maybe your friends call you to hang out, go out for dinner, go to a party. Are you willing to let them distract you? Or are you willing to say no? What are you willing to do? It's your choice. Is your family on the same page as you? You know, my wife and I and Heidi, we're all on the same page. See, my wife understands when I'm at work, I'm working, and she calls me, it's because it's important. It's worth interrupting my workflow. That's how important it is. So she knows that. And that's when she calls me. What we have to understand sometimes is our family's got to be on the same page as us. Sometimes they aren't, or sometimes they forget. They mean well, but they forget. So sometimes we have to have, a little conversation to kind of remind them of what the goal is. Keep in mind, guys, is what you're building is not just for you. You're building for them too. And when they understand that you're not trying to ignore them because you don't care about them, but what you're doing is because you care about them, well, now see everyone's on the same page, and they'll cooperate and they'll work with you. They'll understand. The second personality trait that we need to cultivate is consistency. Wouldn't you agree with that? Consistency. Every day our leads come in, every day you show up, every day you dial, every day you close 3 deals, you rinse, you wash, rinse, repeat, right? The most people, though, struggle with that idea, consistency. Then they look at their production at the end of the month and they wonder, well, why am I getting these lousy results? Because they lack consistency. Sure, there are days that you're gonna feel like you're just not feeling it. Maybe somebody will scream at you on the telephone, or they'll laugh at you and hang up on you, or whatever the case. We can choose to let those things, take up space in our mind, or we can choose to ignore them. But sometimes that's easier said than done. So my point is, some days are going to stink. But no matter what, you put in the reps. And what happens is it becomes muscle memory. You're not searching for what's the next step, what the answer is, what policy, what company to write them with and the like, because it becomes muscle memory from repetitive action. And it becomes a lot easier. So show up early, stay late, stay consistent. Don't let anyone shake you from a consistent schedule. And the third personality trait we can cultivate is work ethic. Outwork everyone. Listen to training calls, attend boot camps, hotspots, national convention, family reunion. Develop your grit. Be determined to be a persistent professional, to be good at your job. And when you're at your work, work. Find a way. The next personality trait we'll talk about is self-control. Self-control. Now, you might be thinking I'm talking about work, but actually I'm talking about self-control when it comes to your money. See, a lot of people start making money in this business. They may make their first like 5,000, and then they're like, well, I worked hard for that. I'm going to take a few weeks off. Well, what's the problem with that? Well, what if they get a chargeback? Now what have they done? Now they owe money because they spent all the money they had, or it comes time for tax season, they have no money to pay their taxes, and now they're in a bind financially. At the very least, what they're going to lose is the consistency that would come from working every single day, sticking to your schedule, your routine. When I started making money at the Alliance, which was very early on, Cindy and I really forced ourselves to try to live on like $3,000 or $4,000 a month. And it wasn't because that's all we could afford, it's because we were stacking cash to go on the offense. I didn't care about the cars, the watches. Cindy and I never really cared much about being a show off. In fact, one thing I appreciate about a lot of wealthy people is that you'll never know they're wealthy by looking at them. They don't talk about it. They don't have money dripping off their fingers. I thought that was a great example. I didn't want to be somebody who is showy and flashy. I wanted to build a business. I wanted to build a cash flow. I wanted to build a nest egg. That was the priority that Cindy and I had for ourselves. So, are you willing to work? Are you willing to do the work even when it's hard? Are you willing to make a schedule and stick to it? Are you willing to make 400 dials a day? Are you willing to do the boring stuff and stick with it and reach your goal? If you're willing to do those things, guys, there's really no reason why you can't sell 3 to 5 policies a day. There's no reason why you can't make a couple $100,000 or more a year. If you do that, you'll change your life. And more importantly, it's going to change the life of your clients, the clients you serve. Think about the position they're going to be in without that policy if their loved one dies. It's really a tragic thought, but we have to remember why it is we do this. So that's why I find life insurance so incredible. I love you guys. I've enjoyed being with you this afternoon. I hope you have a really good week. And if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to me. Have a good one, everybody. Get back to work. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.